think of the brand Hyundai, it doesn't necessarily make you think of luxury, so they went out and created their own luxury brand, Genesis. This is Jason with Chicago News, and this week we're going to check out the Genesis G80 3.8 all-wheel drive. Even though this G80 is not Genesis's biggest sedan, this is still a big car. What that gets you, though, is a ton of interior space. From the outside, this really is a beautiful car. It does kind of evoke an Infiniti-like look, and that's probably not a coincidence because this is essentially Hyundai's version of Infiniti. Around the front, you've got a really imposing looking grille and this Genesis logo. They've tried to create their own identity. Unfortunately, the first look when you see this kind of reminds you of a Chrysler badge, so I wish they had gone in a little bit different direction with the logo so it wasn't quite so confusing. Last year we got to try out one of these G80s with the 3.3 twin turbo, 420 horsepower, and it was quick. This 3.8 normally aspirated version has 311 horsepower, which is still quite a good number. When your entry-level engine has over 300 horsepower, that's something to be excited about. So let's see what losing 100 horsepower and quite a lot of money does to the experience of this G80. The very first thing I noticed hopping into this G80 is just how comfortable this seat is. It's incredibly supportive, but still at the same time it gives you such a luxurious feel. It has good bolsters and support on the sides as well. Really an exceptional seat, especially at this price point. You're going to notice I'm going to say that a lot during this review at this price point because for $45,000, that's the sticker price of this actual car that we're driving, you get a ton for that money. Now, as we talked about, this lost 100 horsepower versus the 3.3 liter turbo that we already tested. The 3.3 turbo all-wheel drive starts at $57,000. Now, it doesn't have very many options available, so it's not going to be, over 60 most likely, but, that's $15,000, $16,000 more than this. And the 3.8 with 311 horsepower can still do this. It's got a great sound. It's plenty quick. There's really nothing that you would need more than that. Certainly, as an enthusiast, I love the 3.3 twin turbo, and you can even get a 5-liter V8. Both of those engines are fantastic, but for an entry-level engine, this doesn't have an entry-level feel to it. The fit and finish of the interior is nothing special, but by the same token, it's really nice. You've got some glossy wood inserts, some aluminum trim. There's not too many different colors. They didn't try to go too far. It's luxurious without being expensive, which is a hard combination these days. This reminds me of a Lexus of a few years ago. Lexus now has tried to go a little too far. They've pushed things, and they didn't do it with quite the right style. And this car has a very simple, clean design on the inside. There's a lot of borrowed touches, like this clock in the center console. They've kind of made it their own by making it square, I get it, but this is very much a Mercedes thing that they've kind of borrowed. A little bit confusing in the center stack here. You've got these two temperature controls, and then you've got a volume knob and a tune knob. I do appreciate the volume and especially the tune knob. These days, a lot of cars don't come with that. You've got to go through the menu and do all kinds of crazy stuff to change the channel, which for those of us who do listen to the radio can be kind of a pain to actually change the station. But having these 4 exact same knobs in close proximity means sometimes you're going to make the temperature cooler when you really just want to turn the radio down. Another thing that this car punches above its price class in is interior noise. It's incredibly quiet in here, and in a good way. You get the engine note and different kinds of sounds that you'd want to hear when you punch it. When you're just driving easy like this, very little sound. You don't hear road noise, the other cars. For a car of this price point, it's exceptionally quiet. Again, the infotainment system that Hyundai/Genesis uses is one of the better ones. It's very simple, easy to use. But by the same token, you've got tons of features and connectivity. You've got all the smartphone connectivity that you'd want. You've got apps that you can download. It doesn't have its own Wi-Fi, but when you're connected to your phone, obviously it uses that connection to download apps and that sort of thing. There's definitely no shortage of where to plug in your devices. You've got 3 12-volt ports and 2 USB ports all right in this area. A regular auxiliary port, which is always nice. A lot of cars don't have that these days and rely just on Bluetooth. This has both Bluetooth music and a regular aux port. Weirdly, there's no connections to charge anything in the back seat, which there's a G90 sedan that Genesis has, which is more the executive sedan. A lot more features in the back seat. This one's kind of meant as a luxury sedan that you drive and that's centered around you. Tons of active safety features. You got lane assist, collision alert, forward emergency braking assist. You've got blind spot monitors, rear cross traffic alert, everything that you could imagine. We found that the lane assist wasn't perfect in terms of bouncing back and forth within the lane. It doesn't stay straight down the center, but it's still a very good safety feature, especially if you use it the way it's supposed to use, which is not to let the car drive itself, just to keep you safer. If your concentration lapses for a second, it'll catch you. As far as handling goes, you know, this has got some all-season tires. It doesn't have the most ultimate grip, but it's still a very competent chassis. As you can hear, kind of goes right into understeer with a little tire noise, but overall, very good feel. It tells you exactly what it's going to do. And honestly, again, I'll say it again, at this price point, very impressive. Plenty of storage in here as well. You've got a giant center console under this armrest, a nice pocket up here that your smartphone fits into. You've got tons of pockets in the doors to keep things. There's really nothing innovative in this interior. It's just a really well done execution of the standard car interior. And another ode to Mercedes, you've got this split folding armrest here. This is right out of the Mercedes playbook, but again, I guess they say imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. I don't know if this is intended or not, but check this out. The way you can cradle your phone in this compartment seems like this was intended. If it was, it's kind of genius. Really simple, easy place to keep your phone. Of course, you should only use it when you're standing still. A couple things missing in here. There's no sunroof, and the trunk is not a power lift. Now, both of those things I can excuse again at this price point. I'm sure you can add a sunroof as an option. I don't know if a power trunk lid is available, but again, those are things I can live without. If the experience is this good overall and the price is where it is, that neither of those things are deal breakers.
6.5 hours later.
Even though it's not branded, it doesn't have a brand name audio system. This is a really good stereo. There's actually a really good sound stage, very clear. The Sirius tuner, the Sirius XM tuner, doesn't have the high resolution audio, so don't get this thinking that you're going to be able to use satellite radio and have it sound great, but FM and certainly streaming and connected music devices sound fantastic here. Car manufacturers have a tendency to put too many controls on the steering wheel, and this one's definitely borderline, although I do like that the volume is on the left hand and it uses a scroll wheel instead of, you know, kind of a button up and down. This is a really convenient way to change the volume. There's a scroll wheel here to go through the menus. Again, it's borderline a couple too many things on the wheel, but overall, very easy to use. Got these shift paddles too, and again, you know, it's one of those things where this really feels like an automatic transmission. It doesn't really give you that sporty feel you're looking for, but I'm gonna say it again, for this price point, I can forgive that. So what do we think overall of this G80? Well, certainly losing the horsepower makes this thing not quite as fun to drive, but for $45,000, the amount of features that are packed into this car, the size of it, the luxury that you get, makes this an incredible value. Definitely one to go check out if you're in the market for a full-size luxury sedan.